Action predictions sadly come to a close today as we get to talk about our final team out of the conference in the Akron Zips. And apologies for Ben Finley's picture over there. I don't know why it's gone so blurry, but Akron is a team that has never been able to really get it figured out, at least in recent history in the Mid-American Conference. Well, Joe Moorhead has had this program seen some ups and seen some downs here. Overall, you feel like things have to get better for the Akron Zips eventually, right? Well, can 2024 be the year that Akron starts to climb the ranks of the Mid-American Conference? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I want to welcome you to my channel and welcome you back to prediction season where, guys, we are almost done. We are in the single digits now. Single digit number of videos left. And yes, it is bittersweet to see it end, but hey, it means I've predicted all 134 teams in the country. And if you guys are as big of a college football nerds as I am, and you want to hear what I have to say during the college football season, well, then you got to subscribe. You got to ring the bell. You won't miss a video that way, and it'll let you hear what I have to say during the college football season. You can do a lot more than that, though, to help support the channel. And watching this video is one of those ways. I greatly appreciate and greatly thank you for simply watching this video, because it helps support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine. Please continue to watch my other videos, like, comment, share. And that is only, I believe, the second or third time my light has fallen over on camera. Hey, it's okay. These videos are one take with little pause in there. We roll with it. Let's go ahead and dive on in to the Akron Zips here in 2024. Again, help support the channel in any way you can. But time to talk football. We're going to dive on into the team's offense, dive into the defense, and at the end of the video, we'll take a preview at their football schedule and give it a game-by-game prediction. Let's go ahead and dive on into things now, but I do have a couple more things here I want to tell you before we do get started, because right over here, right there, will be the stats the team put up either offensively or, of course, defensively last season, depending on what screen we're on. And for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I've went ahead and put the team's coaching staff. Please let me know who the Akron offensive coordinator is down in the comment section below. I couldn't really find anything. I know that they had an offensive coordinator lined up. His name is escaping my mind. He was a former disciple of Joe Moorhead and then has decided to take a step back from football again. The name is escaping my mind. So let me know who's taking over play calling duties in the comment section below. But regardless, let's dive on into the Akron Zips offense, which just was not very good last season. They did not get great quarterback play from pretty much anybody that they decided to roll out there. And while each guy had his ups, the ups definitely came with a lot more downs. You're losing your top two leading passers off of last year's team. Jeff Undercuffler Jr., he was the leading passer for the team last year and threw the most passes last season, 1,378 yards. Hey, had 61% completion percentage, but 4 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Not a good ratio there in DJ Irons, who it felt like you really wanted better of him. You expected better out of DJ Irons. He was the team's second leading passer and second leading rusher as well. We'll tell you his rushing stats here in a minute, but his passing stats, 722 yards, 66.2 completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But both of those guys didn't even average 6.5 yards per completion last year. In fact, DJ Irons only averaged 5.4, but did have 215 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So you are going to be losing that ability from him. But regardless, you'll lose those 2 guys that at times gave you some solid quarterback play, but for the most part, you expected better from especially DJ Irons, but also Jeff Undercuffler as well. Quick water break. Make sure you all stay hydrated. They do return a guy that threw a pretty fair amount of passes for him last year. In 66 attempts, completed 32 passes. For all you math nerds, that's under 50%, 48.5%, roughly around there. For 271 yards, 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. It is Taj Bullock. Now, he had the worst yards per completion out of anyone in the quarterback room. He had 4.1 yards per completion. Ouch, that's not that great. You bring in a guy through the portal in Ben Finley, who has been around the block in the Power 4. Hey, now he gets to take his talent that got him to the Power 4 into the Group of 5. He was there at NC State, I believe, most recently at Cal, where he threw for 572 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 picks last year. Again, the name is Ben Finley. Probably going to end up being that starting quarterback this season. And again, I sincerely apologize for that blurry picture there. Hopefully my thumbnail doesn't look like that, but I apologize if it does. This is a guy in Ben Finley that you want to see take a step in the right direction. You want to see him develop. You want to see him play well. Hopefully this Joe Moorhead offensive system can do that for him here in Akron. Ben Finley probably going to end up being that starting quarterback this season. You do lose some talent out of this running back room. Lorenzo Lingard is an Akron player that entered the NFL. He had 641 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 143 carries. You can see him playing on Sundays. I believe he declared he may have even been signed, but Lorenzo Lingard will now be playing in the NFL. I'll tell you who for here in a second. Oh, he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars, so probably going to try to be a running back for him there. And you do lose Drake Anderson, 40 carries for 132 yards and a touchdown for him last season. Okay, so who comes back? Well, Charles Kellum is back. Blake Hester is back. But overall, I mean, your top 4 leading rushers last year were Lingard, Irons, Taj Bullock, who, yes, does come back, but again, probably not going to be a huge factor there. Maybe he definitely could be. And Drake Anderson. So not really much rush production in terms of just distributing carries last year. So you got guys like Kellum and Hester coming back while you get some very talented transfers coming in. Jordan Simmons probably going to end up being that lead back for this team. If not, he'll play second fiddle to Charles Kellum. He's coming over, I believe, from Michigan State. I'll fact check that. Yes, he is. And you also get Marquise Williams, who is a Minnesota transfer. So, hey, look at that. A couple Big Ten guys coming over to now play Maction football for the Akron Zips. Wide receiver and tight end room, you lose even more talent. Josiah Gathings is gone due to the transfer portal, leading receiver at 575 yards, a touchdown on 55 receptions last year. And Daniel George, second leading receiver, also had over 500 yards, 529 yards and a touchdown. Well, he's gone due to graduation. And oh, by the way, back to Lorenzo Lingard, was also the team's third leading receiver, 38 catches, 368 yards, a couple touchdowns for him last season. So, okay, well, who do you return? Well, Alex Adams was the 4th leading receiver last year, 188 yards and a couple touchdowns. Bobby Golden, Adrian Norton, Miles Walker. Those are some other names that you will see here in this wide receiver room, but you do get a couple transfers coming in that are supposed to play some pretty high impact minutes. Justin Campbell is in, as well as Jarvis Rush. Both of those guys going to see some pretty important minutes here, as well as a guy by the name of Israel Polk, who is coming over from Pitt, now in the tight end room. You do lose TJ Banks. He has gone off due to graduation. Banks last year, 150 yards and a touchdown on 19 catches. Not too shabby. You do get Jake Noel coming back, who also had over 100 yards receiving last year. And Max Wisner is a transfer, I believe, coming over from Missouri. Yes, that is correct. Who could be that starting tight end. But again, you might see him and Noel split sometime this season. Offensive line, let's talk about what they lose, because you lose a lot of important pieces off the line last year due to the portal. Roman Chambers, Nate Williams, Brian Kilbane, and Tony Georges are all going to be gone. But nonetheless, here is what you have on your offensive line this season. With Lawrence Seymour coming in through the portal, you get Tyler Williams, Josh Blanchard, Javen James, Colin Lyons, Keelan Davis, and Keon Kindred all coming back to this football team. So overall, when you talk about the offensive line, you got to get better quarterback play. That's what you're going to hope Ben Finley provides. How do the transfer portal pieces fit in, especially that of Jordan Simmons? I am very intrigued and interested to see how he fits into this system, to see if they can provide some life into this run game. That, look, the pass game needs to get better too. You've already heard me talk about that. But the rush game was just nowhere to be seen last year. They did not distribute carries very well at all. I mean, overall, was not an offense that was on the field a whole lot. I mean, they threw the ball 346 times, ran the ball 258 times. That's good for about 600 plays. You usually see teams get up to 700, maybe even 750. So the offense has got to find ways to stay on the field. That means the quarterback play's got to get better. The run game and offensive line has got to do a much better job than they've done in seasons prior. And it's going to lead to a more successful football season for the Zips. Yes, it's a lot that has to happen. And overall, I mean, you have probably a better quarterback than anyone you had last year with Ben Finley coming in. We'll see how all the other talent around him sort of transforms and adapts from last season. Now you take a deep dive into the defense, which honestly was not that bad last year. The numbers may be a little bit skewed. But what can't be skewed is talking about really how solid this pass defense was last year. Now, they do lose some really important names, including 2 big ones, one out of the cornerback and one out of the safety room here, which I will mention in a little bit. But we got to start out with the losses on the defensive front, as we usually do, and you're losing a couple of pretty important guys. Teray Jones, who led the defense, or I should say second on the defensive line. Second on the defensive line. Did not lead the defensive line. Second on the defensive line in tackles, 43 tackles, and had 2.5 sacks last season, so you lose that production, as well as a couple guys who are going to be leaving due to the transfer portal. Devin Robinson will be leaving, as well as Ryan Johnson. So you lose both of those guys there. Gone and off through the transfer portal. Some fairly important pieces there. Robinson had 16 tackles and half a sack last season. Again, just you're losing more guys off that defensive front there. The leading tackler on the defensive front last year was none other than CJ Nanali the fourth. He had 7 sacks last year to couple with 65 tackles, 2 pass defended, and you very well can make the argument why he's one of the better defensive linemen in the Mid-American Conference. He should see another great season here in 2024, at least individually, but he's going to hope that his guys on the defensive front take a step up from where they were last year. Guys returning around him are going to be Lama Lavea, hopefully pronouncing that name right, Bennett Adler, LaJoshua Jackson, Marcus Moore Jr., and Cam Cheatham, as well as a transfer in Nathan Kapongo that's supposed to play some pretty big minutes here. So led by CJ Nanali on the defensive front, this is an Akron team looking to improve off of what they did last season. And look, they were able to get 23 sacks. The rush defense was overall not horrible, but you're looking to increase that sack production and get a little bit better about stopping that run and forcing pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Linebacker room, Corey Thomas Jr. Was a very important piece last season. And yes, you could list him as a defensive back as well. Decided to put him in the linebacker room here. 47 tackles, 3 passes defended last year. You're going to be losing him, as well as a more true linebacker from last year's team. 18 tackles for Jaharin Griffin, who as well is gone through the portal. But your 2 big name guys in the linebacker room do come back. 95 tackles for Brian McCoy and 94 tackles for one of the best names in college football in Antavius Fish. Both of those guys will be coming back. Shimon Cooper and Kamari Harris will be joining both of them in this linebacker room. Now it's time for the defensive back room. This is where you get some really big hitters gone here. Tyson Durant, very good, very experienced corner for this Akron Zips team, is gone and off through the transfer portal. 7 passes defended, which led the team. Did have a pick to go along with 33 tackles. And you also do lose Judson Talandier. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. He had 40 tackles with 5 passes defended. Hey, another really good piece out of the cornerback room. He is often gone due to graduation. And KJ Martin, the other really, really good piece out of this defensive back room. 6 passes defended. Again, that was second on the team, actually. I don't know if I mentioned it, but Talandier, again, I probably said his name 3 different times. Hopefully one of those pronunciations was correct, and I apologize sincerely. He was third on the team with 5 pass defended. Martin was second with 6. He also had 2 interceptions, which was tied for the team lead last season. And you also are losing Nate Thompson, 38 tackles, a sack, and a pass defended. He's gone due to graduation. So some really good talent leaving through the defensive back room. What do you return? Well, you return a guy that also was tied for that team lead in interceptions last year. It's Devontae Golden Nelson. He returns, as well as Joey Hunter and Issa Jarman and Justin Anderson will be guys coming in through the transfer portal. Now, when you talk about the safety room, Darian Lewis comes back, DeMarco Johnson comes back, but again, a lot more guys through the portal. Amon Greenwood, Paul Lewis, and Damon David are all supposed to play some really important parts here for this defensive backfield in 2024. And then when you go and take a look at the special teams room, I mean, no one notable does leave. My apologies sincerely. No one notable does leave the special teams unit, which means, hey, we get to show love to some returning kickers this year. Dante Jackson back to do the punting. Noah Perez and Owen Wiley back to be some place kickers for the Zips here in 2024. You take a look at this defense. What needs to get better? Well, first off, it's going to be pretty hard to replace some of the talent that you lost, especially in the defensive backfield. Tyson Durant and KJ Martin were a phenomenal pairing in the quarterback and safety room, or not quarterback, cornerback and safety room. And when you lose 2 guys of that caliber, it's just going to be really hard for this team to replace. However, you still got some really important pieces back. Top 2 leading tacklers in McCoy and Fish. Could couple to make them one of the better linebacking duos in the Mid-American Conference this season. CJ Nanali should see a great individual season on the defensive front. He needs some other guys around him to step up and sort of pick up the slack from the production last season. Not to say that they didn't do a pretty good job last year, but I'm sure CJ Nanali would like some help getting a pass rush back to opposing quarterbacks. How do the portal pieces fit into the defensive backfield? A lot of questions surrounding this Akron defense, as with the offense, but hey, maybe we see this defense, I think, inevitably regress in the yards per game point because that number is just going to be hard to match from last year. But overall, it could prove to be a pretty solid defense for the Zips this season. Will it all culminate to a successful year? Let's find out by looking at their 2024 football schedule. Any game at home is going to be underlined. Well, any game on the road is in italics. Guys, that's that slanted text. Any game in green is going to be a game that I think the Zips win easily. Any game in yellow should be a close competitive game that I see the Zips being able to pull away from and win. And any game in red is a loss. And Akron usually has a really tough non-conference slate. This year is no different. You got to start with two teams out of the Big Ten Conference in the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. You're going to lose both of them, and I don't need to explain why you're going to lose, really, to me, either of them, but especially not this one against an in-state team, the big, bad Ohio State Buckeyes. Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins, those are some pieces on that team that come in through the portal. They return a ton more guys that were eligible for the draft last year. Will Howard's in at quarterback. They're going to be one of the best teams in the country this year, one of, if not the national title favorite, and that is going to be a loss for the Akron Zips. They'll also lose to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, who watch out for Rutgers this year. I know Ethan Kaliakmanis is in there, and he's got to show some better things at the quarterback position, but a lot of good talent offensively, a lot of good talent defensively. We have seen this story with Greg Schiano in this Rutgers Scarlet Knights program before. Watch out for Rutgers this year. They're going to be a sneaky, sneaky team in the Big Ten Conference, but the Akron losing ways will end right here. They should be able to pick up a win against the Tailgate Raiders, just not a very solid side, at least to my knowledge goes, in the FCS ranks. If not, they could be a pretty competitive side here, as Akron, I just think sees their struggles this year, but it is still going to be a win for the Akron Zips. That is what I predict. However, the losing streak, let's just start it right back up. You're going to lose this game against South Carolina, who have a ton of really talented returning pieces this season, and SEC talent, no match for MAC talent, or I should say MAC talent, no match for SEC talent. In most cases, this one applies right here. I think South Carolina is going to beat Akron, and then you get into Mid-American Conference play, and welcome back to MACtion play. You're going to lose to the Ohio Bobcats. Now, look, I know the Bobcats lose a ton of talent off of last year. The quarterback gone, top two leading rushers gone, wide receiver pieces gone, defensive pieces gone. They're one of the worst teams in the country in returning production, guys. Ohio does not return a lot of guys that provided significant impact, either offensively or defensively, to that football team from last year. Well, you got some really good portal pieces coming in. Parker Navarro, I think, is still going to provide some solid quarterback play. Tim Albin is actually not going to be, well, yes, going to be, but has been and is one of the better head coaches in the Mid-American Conference. And I think Ohio is still going to be right there. While they might not be in top-tier title contention for a Mid-American Conference championship, I think they're going to be right there pretty darn close if they can pull off a couple wins. Who knows, the Bobcats could be MAC contenders, but regardless, going to be a solid team this year, and that is a loss for the Akron Zips. They'll also lose to the Bowling Green Falcons, who, much like the Ohio Bobcats, will also be a solid team this year. But unlike Ohio, they got a lot of nice returning talent. Now, the wide receiver room does take a couple really big hits, but they brought in some guys through the portal to help fill those needs. You get Connor Bazelak coming back to play quarterback. You get some really good pieces in the running back room back, really good pieces on defense back, as well as some good transfers to help bulk up that room. Bowling Green, Bowling Green has been one of the teams that sat towards the bottom of the MAC in recent memory. Over the past couple of years, they slowly started to climb up, and if this is a year where any team out of the MAC can be sort of one of the teams that go from the middle ground to contend for a MACtion title, that's going to be the Bowling Green Falcons. Like a lot of the talent there, rooting hard for them this year. That is going to be a loss for the Akron Zips. They're also going to lose on the road to the Western Michigan Broncos. Hayden Wolf is back to play quarterback. They got a lot of really nice talent there in that wide receiver room that is coming back. And Western Michigan, again, offensively, I think it's got a lot of really nice pieces there. Now, defensively, we'll see what they can do against the Akron offense. But I think Akron just not going to have a great offense this year. Yes, Ben Finley will help make it better, but I don't love the talent that is surrounding him. You lose a lot of talented guys from last year's team, even though you got some good returners. I think Western Michigan is the better football team than you, and then you finally get your first bye week. Okay, things do not get better after the bye week, I do have to say. I do think they win at least one game, which may have spoiled my next prediction, but you are going to lose this game to the Eastern Michigan Eagles, a team that, much like Akron, could not find a lick of offense last year. That's going to change when Cole Snyder comes in to play quarterback. You got some good running back and wide receiver pieces that are transferring into that team as well. Defensively, I think Chris Creighton is going to have a solid group, if not a really good group, one of the better defenses the MAC sees, even though it loses its top two linebackers from last year. Really good linebacking duo whose names are escaping my mind. But regardless, Eastern Michigan is going to get better at the very least offensively this year when you have Cole Snyder, the former Buffalo quarterback, coming in. And speaking of Buffalo, well, they lose Cole Snyder, and they not only lose him, they lose a ton more pieces offensively. They lose some good pieces defensively, and I'm just not in love with the Buffalo Bulls this year. They're going to be competitive, and they're going to get some wins, at least towards the bottom tier of the MAC. But I think Akron, again, gets at least one, maybe two wins in conference this year, and I think this is going to be the one right here. I just don't love the Buffalo Bulls this season. I don't think they're going to be that great of a team. This is the time for Akron to strike. They're going to be able to get that win before going into their second bye week, and that has to feel good because now you enter MACtion play, and things are going to be tough sledding for you here. You're going to lose on the road to the Northern Illinois Huskies, who are going to have one of the better teams in the Mid-American Conference this year. Now, look, Thomas Hammock's group has seen an up and down pattern. It's like a 9-3 and then 3-9 season, then 7-5 and then 4-8. And the pattern has continued all throughout his coaching tenure. Well, last season was an up for them. They made a bowl game and went 6-6. This year is supposed to be a down, but I don't see that necessarily happening. I think they got too much talent to go on that downslide. I think Northern Illinois can be one of the teams that can contend for a MAC title this season, as the Huskies will be beating the Zips. Kent State, they're going to take the wagon wheel back this year. I think the Golden Flashes are going to improve from where they were last year. Again, I don't love Kenny Burns as a head coach, I'll be honest, but I think Tommy Ulatowski is going to have a good year. You got Gavin Garcia, you got Krishawn McCray, you got some really important defensive pieces coming back. I just see no reason to believe that Kent State's going to be as poor of a football team as they were last year. I think they're going to improve, maybe surprise a little bit of people in the Mid-American Conference, but overall that is going to be a win for me for the Kent State Golden Flashes. And then Toledo, I know they're losing Penny Boone. I know they're losing Daquan Finn, but Tucker Gleason's going to provide good quarterback play, and the wide receiver room pretty much intact from last season. A lot of good returning defensive pieces, even though you do lose Dallas Gant and Quinion Mitchell. Toledo also going to be one of the better teams out of the MAC this season. They will be beating the Akron Zips, leading to a 2-10 record for Akron. Oh, when will the humanity end? Okay, all jokes aside, this is an Akron team that feels like they can be better this year. They got some good, important returning defensive pieces. Ben Finley's coming in at quarterback, which is immediately going to improve that position for them this season. It feels like Akron should maybe be on the book for 3 or 4 wins this year. I just don't see that playing out, guys. I know Ben Finley's going to heighten this quarterback play, but I don't think there's enough significant talent around him to affect that. The defense is not going to be as good as it was last year, in my opinion, and Akron struggles once again here in 2024. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and in my next video, we'll talk about the Georgia State Panthers. Goodbye.